Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
And we're live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've been getting quite a few questions about losing progress during this quarantine. We're stuck at our homes. We can't go to gyms. Some of us can't even get the groceries that we want. And a lot of you guys are concerned. And I understand you're concerned about losing a lot of the hard-earned progress that you've made over the past weeks, months, etc. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Minisode number 24 on the More Than Fitness podcast. And I'm going to start this Minisode off real quick with a story. And I've talked about this story a few times, written about it a few times. But this was in 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017. So basically, I hadn't missed a day at the gym. So I'd been going consistently to the gym probably at least 4 times a week for the past 5-6 years at this point in 2017. There had been basically no weeks that I had gone more than probably 4 or 5 days of skipping the gym. All right. But then I had a buddy who was in Garmisch, Germany. He was away there. It was kind of like study abroad, except he was working in Germany, and we've been buddies for a long time. And he asked me and a few of my other friends to come to Germany and visit him. And so we were there. We were in Germany for 5 days, and we were in Amsterdam for 5 days. And so it was about a 2-week period that I didn't go to the gym at all. There was gyms around and stuff, but I'm not going to be that guy to go to Germany or Amsterdam and waste time trying to find a gym because I'm worried about losing my biceps, right? So this was the first period of time that I had gone without consistently going to the gym. And so I was concerned, like many of you, like, oh, I think I'm going to lose my progress. I think I'm going to get fat. I'm going to lose my strength, lose my muscle. I was worried because I'd never taken off time like this. But whenever I returned from Germany and Amsterdam, and in Germany and Amsterdam, we biked a whole lot, a shit ton. I biked more on that trip than I did probably in the past 5 years of my life combined. But we biked a lot. So we did a lot of aerobic stuff but no actual resistance training. But whenever I came back, it was the best I had ever felt, or at least it was the best I had felt in a very long time. And if I didn't have that trip to kind of force me to take some time off from the gym, I don't think I would have ever felt that comfortable with going long periods of time, such as what we're doing right now. I don't think I would have had that ease of mind to think, oh, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm not going to lose tons of muscle. I'm not going to get fat or anything like that. Instead, what happened was quite the opposite. I felt really good. My joints felt really good. I was super motivated to get back in the gym. You guys can all imagine whenever we were able to actually go to the gym once again, how motivated you're going to be to put in some work, right? And to chase those results again. So it was definitely a blessing in disguise. And I think that's what this quarantine, the virus, everything is doing for us right now. It's giving us a good perspective on how motivated we're going to be whenever we get back and not take advantage of these situations. But also, it's going to be a big relief to our bodies to not go through because some of you, you lift 5-6 times a week that are watching this, and you just put your body through constant hell, right? Of lifting weights or just exercising in general. And this is forcing you to pull back a little bit. It's making you deload a little bit. So this quarantine is going to be the best thing for a lot of people. And so I want you to look at it in a positive light instead of a negative light. But as I said, I've been getting some questions about losing progress during this time. And so I wanted to make this minisode have quite a few ways to reduce any to ease your mind a little bit more and give you some actual practical ways to make sure that you avoid losing more progress than you need to during this time. So the good news is that muscle loss takes time. and our muscles are going to stick around for a lot longer than you think they are. I think the research has shown like, yeah, within 2 to 6 weeks of no training, so this means no resistance training at all, that's whenever a muscle will start to reduce and your body will start using it for energy as opposed to only your fat, right? But yeah, 2 to 6 weeks with no training. So assuming you're still doing even just body weight workouts and giving your body some type of formal resistance training, you're going to be holding on to that muscle mass and making sure that you also don't like eat like a complete asshole. You should be good to go during this time. So the good news is muscle sticks around, and there's these things in your muscle cells called myonuclei, right? And you create more myonuclei as you lift, as you grow your muscles. And actually, what happens whenever we become detrained is, I'm pretty sure this is correct. This is how it works. But those myonuclei, they simply get smaller. So whenever you've created them in the muscle cells, they stay there. However, whenever you detrain, they just get smaller, right? So they kind of like deactivate. But then, say for example, whenever we're not going to the gym for a month or two, and again, this is saying you don't go to the gym at all, don't do any resistance training. But whenever you say you were got in an injury, right, and then you come back after 8 weeks, you finally get to the gym again. Well, those myonuclei are still there in your muscle cells, and you'll be able to basically activate them at a much quicker rate than you were previously. So it's basically muscle memory is a real thing. So that's definitely good news. So the rate of muscle, so even if you do lose muscle and strength during this time, it's going to come back twice as fast whenever you are able to get into a gym again. So don't worry about muscle loss. The research is very clear that your body does not make adaptations that quickly, especially if you're fueling properly and also getting in at least some body weight workouts and things like that. So yeah, muscle loss, don't worry as much about it. The next thing to do to make sure, again, that can help combat this muscle loss is to keep your protein high, right? This is good for muscle gain, but also for fat loss as well. So just keeping your protein high is probably going to be a good idea to make sure that you basically give your muscles a reason to hold on to that, you give your muscles a reason to hold on to that. So you eat more protein so that your body can have plenty of other nutrients to take away from, as opposed to pulling from your muscle cells and pulling from your muscle for energy. So point number 2 is to keep your protein high. It's pretty much a given, but it's worth bringing back top of mind. Okay. After that, so a lot of you are worried about using bands or body weight and it not being enough to hold on to your muscle mass. Again, like I said, your body is very good at that. But also the research has been very clear that light weights are fine as long as you are getting close to failure on those lifts. So for example, there's been research to show that even if you do sets of 30, if you're getting close to failure on that 28th, 29th, and 30th rep, you're still going to build basically just as much muscle mass as if you were doing sets of 8 to 12, as long as the volume was equated, and all the other variables are the same, right? So the actual rep range doesn't matter as much whenever it comes to building muscle mass. Building strength is going to be different, but building muscle mass, it's been pretty clear that you can use high reps or moderate reps and still get the same results as long as the volume is equated and you're also getting close enough to failure. So that means whenever you are doing body weight exercises, you are doing banded exercises, just make sure that you make them hard. Right? Just make sure that you do enough reps to really challenge yourself and get close to failure on those, and you should be just fine. All right, next is going to be about your, so some people are worried about losing their strength during this time. But so research has also shown that strength and aerobic capacity sticks around for a while. So those adaptations stick for about a month or so. So you hold on to those for a while, which is good. And again, this is assuming you're not training at all. I'm assuming that a lot of you guys are training, so you're going to be pretty at least maintaining in those departments. But for power, so for explosive movements, things like that, pertains more so if you're maybe like an athlete or maybe a CrossFitter or an Olympic lifter or something like that, your power is going to deteriorate a lot more quickly. So for that, but again, you can do body weight movements that can mimic those, such as if you're going to do sprints or jumps or kettlebell swings or plyo push-ups, right? All of these are explosive movements that you can focus on to build power, as opposed to doing a power clean or something with a barbell. You don't have to have that extra resistance to really train these adaptations, basically, for power. So if you're worried about losing power, just make sure you get in plenty of sprints, do some box jumps, do some kettlebell swings, plyo push-ups. And this doesn't mean do kettlebell swings for reps or do box jumps for reps. This means taking plenty of rest in between and giving maximum effort to each one of those reps. So if you're doing box jumps, for example, I sometimes see people, jumping up and down like as fast as possible, doing it for cardio. It's not a good idea. Let me just go ahead and say that. Your injury risk is very high whenever you're fatigued and also trying to jump up on a box. It's just not a good idea for cardio. There's much better ways to do it. But if you're doing it for power, it can work fine. I wouldn't recommend trying to make the box as high as possible. What I would instead is make sure that you jump as high as possible, and then you can land on the box softly, right? Like it doesn't matter, like jumping up super high is only putting your risk of injury, it's making it even higher. Like it would be better if you just jump as high as possible and then land safely on the box, and then reset, do it again, reset, do it again. Again, this is about quality of the exercise, not how many you can do within a certain period of time. Power is maximum effort, rest, maximum effort, rest. So yeah, make sure that you are doing it correctly. As far as your nutrition goes, something that you could try and do is intermittent fasting. This is going to be something that, because a lot of you are worried about mindless eating, or eating out of boredom or stress or something like that. Intermittent fasting can give you that structure, give you those boundaries to make sure that you have some type of rigidity to make sure that you're eating within a certain period of time, and that may be all the restriction that you need to stay on track with your goals. Like if you just have, say, calories or macros or something to hit throughout the entire day, maybe that's not motivating enough for you. Maybe it's not what's the word? The boundaries just aren't as rigid, right? With if it fits your macros or something like that, you have a little bit more freedom there. With intermittent fasting, you know that if you're eating for 8 hours a day, you can eat during those 8 hours, and then that's it. I wouldn't recommend to try and eat as much food as possible during these times, but having like 2 meals a day and maybe a shake would be a good idea during this time to make sure that you limit your calories by reducing your overall meal frequency for the day. So eating less meals typically results in eating fewer calories as a whole. All right. Almost last thing here. 2 more things. Second to last is going to be work on different goals during this time. So how to avoid losing progress? Well, again, your muscle mass is going to stay there, right? As long as you're doing some form of band work or body weight work or something like that. But it's also a good time to work on your mobility, work on your stretching, work on your aerobic work. So meaning like go for walks, go for jogs, run hills, push sleds or something if you have access to it. Just different things, different goals that you aren't used to working on that will benefit you later on. So for example, if you're somebody who gets really tired after doing 10 reps on squats or something, this could be a really good time to go for runs and stuff. You'll build up your aerobic capacity so that whenever you come back, sure, the strength may take a couple days or a couple weeks to catch up, but whenever that happens, you should be able to rep out that same weight for 10 reps, except you won't be as tired this time. And so having more aerobic work could be beneficial to that so that you could do more quality work as a whole for your entire training week. Stretching, I'm sure all of us could do more stretching and mobility work, maybe core work. I know that I'm probably not the only person who has neglected their ab work, so this could be a good time to focus on that as well. And it's just, yeah, you have to stay creative in times like this. I know shit sucks, but it's just like, this is the best we got and we got to work with it. And the way to keep yourself entertained and motivated is to pick these other goals or maybe work on these other things that you haven't given as much time to and try to progress on those. I think your body will thank you whenever you come back to have a more well-rounded program as a whole. All right. And the last thing, this pertains to, again, people eating out of boredom and kind of mindless eating and they don't have things to do, or at least they say they don't have things to do. So my last tip is to stop being boring. Like this is going to be the best way that you keep yourself preoccupied during this time. Like you are stuck at home, yes, but there's plenty of things that you still have access to, whether it's books or the internet or house projects or something. Like there's so many things that you probably said you've always wanted to learn how to do, even if you just pick one avenue. So like cooking, for example, you can deep dive, or I was talking with Jared Hamilton on my last podcast, and we were talking, he's into cigars and I'm into wine, just going down the rabbit hole of learning about those things. And just, I mean, I could be entertained for hours learning about this specific craft or skill or just thing, right, that I'm interested in. And you can learn about it for hours on end. So yeah, stop being boring. Try and find different things that you might be interested in. And it's just like, you don't have to spend all your time on social media or listening to the news or whatever. It's like find different things to get interested in and follow down that rabbit hole. See where it takes you. All right. So I think that should be just about it. I hope that helps. Again, do not stress too much about losing progress during this time. Just continue to maintain your progress. Then whenever you get back in the gym, you can really kill it. And I promise your results will be twofold because you will be so ready to make gains. Your body will be primed for muscle growth during that time. And what a glorious time it will be, huh? But all right, that is it for Minisode number 24 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening and for watching. See ya.